Alright, what's up, y'all? We're back. I've got another build. I've actually got a ton of builds. I'll explain this really quickly. On the PS5, if you download Elden Ring, you can download the PS5 version of the game and the PS4 version of the game at the same time. Obviously, it's going to take up twice the amount of space, but it allows you to have 10 different save slots on each, so you can have up to 20 characters. Also, on the PS5, you can create multiple PSN profiles, and they can all access the games that your main profile has, right? So you don't need to have PS Plus on your second or third profile in order to invade, as long as you have PS Plus on your primary profile. So anyways, with that out of the way, I've got a ton of builds. I've got 10 builds on one profile. They're all level 90. This is one of them. So this is like a holy soldier kind of guy. I wanted to do like a holy guy, I guess, just because I hadn't done that before. And I didn't really want to go with a big chunky golden knight, mostly because I don't want to put like 30 points into endurance on a level 90 build. Also, I just don't really love that look. This guy is, I guess, more of kind of like a soldier type look. He's wearing the High Priest shirt. I've got the Holy Soldier helm. That gives me 1 extra point of faith, so that's pretty nice. And, you know, it allows me to not go crazy with the endurance and not have to use the Great Jar's Arsenal in order to carry my my seal, my weapon, my shield, and all that kind of stuff, and still be able to medium roll, which is really important. So this build, it's a little bit more toolsy than powerful, I would say, right? And what I mean by that is, I mean, I don't do a ton of damage, so that part is self-explanatory. It's not super powerful, but I've got a ton of different things at my disposal. I've got a number of different weapons that I use. I've got this twin blade that you get from the DLC, which is pretty nice. The damage is pretty solid if you go for a Sacred Infusion. Same with the, I think it's called the Black Steel Great Hammer. You'll see that a little bit later on. I'll show you the stats, talismans, weapons, everything at the end of the video as well. So if you're curious about how the build fits together, I'll show you that at the end. But for now, I'll just kind of explain what we've got going on here. So I've got the Clawmark Seal. The Clawmark Seal is really nice because basically it's got faith strength scaling that splits evenly. Then the soft cap for each stat is 45. So it's not really like an end game seal or anything like that. If you're going to go for, you know, a level 150 build or something like that, you get a lot more damage out of 80 faith with the Erdtree seal than you would out of like 50-50 strength and faith with this seal. Having said that, at a lower level, if you're at, say, 20 strength and 36 faith, which is what I have here, this is going to be your best bet because both of those stats are you know, feeding into your spell damage, and the seal is a little bit front-loaded. Like, it's got pretty decent scaling early in the game. It's got bad late-game scaling. It's kind of the opposite of the Erdtree seal, which is the most powerful, but it doesn't become the most powerful until you have like 70-something faith, and then it gets insane gains from 70 to 80 faith. This thing caps out at 45 strength and 45 faith. And a really fun thing that I haven't seen anyone else talk about before, and I think a lot of people don't know about this because it doesn't change the numbers in your stat screen, but you could actually two-hand the Clawmark Seal, and that will actually improve your damage relative to, you know, getting 50% more strength when you two-hand something. Now, I did notice that it showed my incant scaling. I think right now it's like 184 with this character, so not super high, but we're lower level, so it's not bad. And then when I two-hand the seal, it still says 184, but it's very easy to test. You just go to an enemy, throw a rock at him, you know, reset the bonfire, go throw a rock at him again, and you can see the damage difference. The one thing you just have to account for when you do damage tests is that you do 20% more damage to an enemy that's not aware. So what you want to do is, you know, go aggro them, make sure they see you, hit them with a spell, like 5 times, just make sure that you're not getting an outlier number, make sure it's consistent. Then two-hand the seal, and just do the test again. So it was actually giving me a pretty decent chunk in, you know, a pretty decent improvement in the incant scaling. It wasn't showing the improvement on the stat screen, but just I could see the damage numbers popping up. Look at that. This guy's got absolutely shish kebab right there. That's awesome. So yeah, that's pretty cool. If you're going to you know, throw some rocks at people and try to knock them off a ledge, or hit some people that are kind of far away and you know they're not gonna like they're not right in front of you, you're definitely safe to two-hand your seal. Just remember that you'll then have to press R1 to cast your spells instead of L1, but you get a damage boost out of it, so why not? So that's a really fun thing about this build. Another thing about this build is, if you take a look at the spells that we have, I've got the Ice Lightning, the Flame of Frenzy, I've got Stone of Garank, I've got Bestial Sling, Wrath of Gold, and I think a healing spell. So the healing over time one, I think it's Blessing's Boon. The cool thing about those is none of those are parryable by Carrion Retaliation. So Carrion Retaliation, I think one of the best tools in the game to have for an invader, and I have it on almost every build that I have. It's the one constant that I have. That and Jar Cannon in case people are trying to do some AFK stuff. But yeah, the Carrion Retaliation, like, I don't run into it a lot. I use it a lot, but I feel like people never use it when I cast spells. But I constantly use it to protect myself from spells. But you can't use it against any of the spells that I'm using. So that's another cool thing. We're kind of protected from that. And then using the 2 Black Steel weapons with Sacred Infusion, we get a little bit extra damage compared to what we would normally get out of weapons with, you know, this weapon level and this kind of stat split. Like if we compare the Black Steel Great Hammer to any other Great Hammer that we would infuse with Sacred. Same goes with the Twin Blades, right? We get a little extra damage there. So that's another cool thing about the build. So we've got a few cool things going on. Like I said, not a ton of damage, not super powerful, but we're toolsy. We've got a bunch of different things. Now, the Stone of Garank, I don't think I got any good clips of this, but if you hit someone close with Stone of Garank, that does enough stun damage that you can hit them with a follow-up thing. So maybe some weapon arts will work, but I know that Wrath of Gold will work as well, because you can kind of chain cast them a little bit, or if you cast one into another, it's a little bit faster, right? So that's a really nice AoE spell that actually does surprising damage and can kind of protect you from the sides as well if there's some phantoms in the mix. So some really nice options that we have for different situations. We've got AoEs, we've got things for single targets, we've got like some get off me type tools. The ability to parry is always really nice. I went with this Beast Crest Heater Shield just for the look of it, but ideally you would want to go with like the Banished Knight shield or the Brass Shield to have a little bit more of a guard boost. Now this invasion is kind of fun. I'm 95% sure that I'm remembering this correctly. So sometimes when I warp in, I'll hit the PlayStation button and this thing will pop up that'll show you how many players you're playing with, and it shows you what their PSN profile names are. So sometimes I'll check that just to see how many people, you know, if I want to know to expect 2 people or 3 people or whatever, or if it's a duelist or whatever, right? So in this case, I could see that it was like matching his and her names, right? So one of them was Sir something and one of them was Lady something, which could have just been a coincidence, but both of them were stylized a very specific way. So every other letter was a capital letter, and then every other letter was lowercase, capital, lowercase, so on, right? So it was very clear that this was like, you know, husband, wife, or boyfriend, girlfriend, or something. All right, maybe brother, sister, I don't know. Maybe both, I don't know. But yeah, I just thought that was kind of cute, kind of funny. You know, I just think it's fun that people play the game that way. When people do like paired cosplay builds, that's also pretty cool. You know, you see a lot of really fun stuff that people do in Elden Ring, and although the game's been out for 3 years, like there's pretty much an endless amount of ways that you can continue to enjoy a game like this. So I'm going to show you the stats and everything that go into the build now. So here's the fashion. I'll show you that first. The Haligtree Soldier Helm, or whichever one that is, it gives me 1 point in Faith extra. So there's a little benefit there. Everything is really just centered around the fashion, though. 3 of those 4 talismans were constant, but this one here I did change around a little bit. So I would take the extra 5 strength if I wanted to use the Black Steel Great Hammer. The Blessed Blue Dew talisman was handy. Erdtree's Favor is a good one to use. And then 3 at the end there that are spell related. If I wanted to focus a little bit more on spells, I might switch to one of those talismans. The Clawmark Seal I talked about during the video. That's one of the really important elements of the build. And the shield with the Carrion Retaliation is just something I really enjoy on every build. Ignore the perfume there, just pick that up, that's going to go in storage. But everything else is either infused with Sacred, or the McKellen Night Sword is actually a quality weapon with a small faith requirement. It doesn't get a ton of damage out of faith, but it's a fun weapon to use. It's got the unique heavy attacks and stuff like that. So here's the stats. I'm at 41 faith, but that's only because of the talisman. It's actually 36. You can see the spells there. Used a little bit of those throughout the video. And then here's a good look at the fashion. For all my builds, I try to create a unique fashion, and I try not to use too many pieces from the same armor set and that kind of stuff. But that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoy the build. I hope you enjoy the invasions. And I'll be back soon with another one.